Hey, this is Mark in San Antonio, Texas. I love the Gospel Tangents podcast because it has some of the best and most diverse guests in the field of Mormon studies. They're people whose work I've read and enjoyed and that I would love to sit down and have a chat with. And the podcast lets me have that experience vicariously.
Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. What does it feel like to be an adult convert in the LDS Church? Joseph Freeman, the first black man ordained after the 1978 revelation, describes the wonderful feelings he felt as he rose up out of the waters of baptism. Check out our conversation. All right, so I guess my biggest question, here you were, you're a holiness preacher, and you said it didn't bother you that you couldn't hold the LDS priesthood.
Let me explain it like this.
Okay.
There came a time, I guess, when I was in Hawaii, as I would have the opportunity to speak in various churches, I felt the Spirit with me, but I felt something was lacking. And that's why I kept fasting and praying and trying to reach deeper and be closer to God, because I knew something was not there that should be there. I didn't know if it was authority or what. I had received a license to preach the gospel through the church that I had been growing up in there in Greensboro. The minister awarded me a license, and it was actually through the government as well. You know, you have to apply for it. But he sent me the certificate while I was in Hawaii. And that it just seemed like there's something still not there that should be there. And so when people began to tell me about the priesthood, I began to think, is this the reason I'm feeling this way? Is this the reason that something is missing in my life, in the authority, in whatever it is that I'm doing? I couldn't put my hands on it. But I know this, the day that I was baptized, that feeling disappeared. And so it wasn't the priesthood or not having the priesthood. It was becoming a member of this church. Wow. And so I can remember the bishop baptized me, and then one of the missionaries confirmed me. There were two missionaries. I can't remember the name of one, but one was Elder Harris. And the second missionary, I know he lives here in Utah, but I don't remember his name right now. But as I was dipped into the water, I came up. There was just a beautiful feeling. It's like, you could remember, I guess if I could describe it like this, standing under the, how should I say, like an April shower outside, and it's just cool and refreshing. And I felt like I was washed clean, cleaner than I'd ever been in my life. And that was just a very special feeling as I joined the church. And, you know, the one thing that I guess resonates with me as a member, I feel the Spirit stronger in my life on an everyday basis. I know that people in other churches have the Spirit, and they feel the Spirit too. But there's something special about being a member of this church and feeling the Spirit. And I could never go back to where I came from. I feel the Spirit different times when I visit other churches, but there's something about being a member of this church that's constant. It's constant and it's right. And I feel the Spirit in a little bit different way that tells me what I'm doing is the right thing. Where preaching this gospel is the right thing. When I read the Book of Mormon, it's the right thing. Every time I go to church, it's the right thing. I have never felt to go back where I came from. Just keep moving forward. Yeah.
So did your family react differently when can you tell us about how they reacted when you joined the church?
You know, my mother and father are both very religious. My father just had a birthday in March. He turned 100 years old.
Wow.
And my mother passed away a few years ago. when she was 86, 87, 87. And my mother never spoke anything against the church. You know, I remember I don't think I even told her that I had joined the church when I was baptized, but somewhere along the way I told her. And I remember when I was visiting with her in North Carolina, we lived in Greensboro, and she said, "Oh, the Mormon people, that's those rich people on the other side of town." well, where the church was located, there was only one chapel that I can remember in Greensboro at that time.
Oh, wow.
There was another chapel that was outside of town a little bit, and it was in a very wealthy neighborhood, you know, and so it was a new area that had been built up, and there were no black people in that area. A lot of the white people sold their houses during that time period, you know, the protests and the marching and so forth. And they bought land out into this new areas, huge pine trees, beautiful areas. And they built nice brick homes out there, beautiful homes. And so one of the problems happened is that all the stores left from downtown, and they boarded those stores up, you know, and all of the businesses went out there into the suburbs. And so the black people that bought their houses now in town, thinking I'm going to be close in town and have this nice home, but they were older homes, they were then disappointed. You know, their neighborhoods just kind of folded. But I think Greensboro has bounced back now, kind of like downtown Salt Lake. They went in and revived it a bit. I haven't lived in Greensboro since then, though. I went back for a few months, and then I moved out west, and I've been out here since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you, so what did you serve, about 4 years in the Army then?
3 years active, and then 21 with the National Guard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you left Hawaii, you went home to North Carolina for a few months.
Yes.
And then, like Horace Greeley said, you said, "Go west, young man."
That's
Is that
right. Yes. I met a gentleman while I was in Hawaii. He was a contractor. His name was Mishmash. And he invited me to come and learn from him how to build houses. I had met another guy named Jack Hutchinson. And Jack taught me how to do body and fender, paint cars and so forth. And those are skills that, you know, once you have it, you got it the rest of your life. And so I enjoy doing automotive work. And when I majored in school, I chose to teach shop, woodwork, automotive. I was never good at electronics, so couldn't teach that. But I ended up working for the LDS Church for about 17 years, and probably basically doing building maintenance. And so I worked for the temple most of that time, almost. So
it was the Denver Temple, right?
Denver Temple, Hawaiian Temple, Montana Temple, and the Albuquerque Temple. I went to Albuquerque after leaving Denver to help open that temple. And they needed someone that could do woodwork, touch-up. And the problem they had is when the contractors finished, you could see the nails in the wood. And President Hinckley didn't like that. So they wanted someone that could cover those nails so you couldn't see them. And they had tried to hire companies around there, and the guys weren't good enough. So my old boss talked to me if I was interested in coming to work, and I was. At that time, I had left the temple, and I went to work for the prison in Colorado for about a year, and then I was wanting to get back into the system, and so he said, "This is my problem," and he knew I could handle it. So he hired me and took me to Albuquerque. He was the recorder in the Denver Temple, and then he became the recorder for the Albuquerque Temple. So he brought me right in, and I went in and started doing the woodwork, and everything worked out. But later, there was an opportunity to go back to Denver, and my wife didn't like Albuquerque too much. So as soon as she heard that Denver was open and had a job for me, she said, "We're going." That was the end of that conversation. But anyway, working for the church was a great joy. The only problem is I got back to Denver and later went to Montana to work in that temple. And she didn't like Montana at all. And I liked Montana, but it was very cold. It was very cold. So I decided, well, let's go back to Denver. But there were no jobs here, you know, in the church system. So I got out of the church system a little bit early, but still able to retire from that system. And I started working in healthcare, in assisted living homes, and I did hospice for about 9 years. Wow. And then we started our own business right here in our home. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, let's jump back to the 1970s, especially 1978. Well, actually, let me back up before that. So after you got out of the Army, you went to North Carolina for a few months.
Yes.
And then you came back to Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. And what year was that? Probably 73, 74?
Yep. We came here in 76.
Oh, was it that late?
Yes. Yeah. After I got out of the Army, I got out in 75. And then we stayed in Hawaii for a while. And then in 76, my mother called me that my father wasn't doing too good health-wise. So we left Hawaii and went back.
That was 50 years ago your father wasn't doing, and he's still around.
That's right. That's right. Isn't that amazing? So we went to North Carolina and back to Greensboro to live.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Joseph Freeman. In our next conversation, we'll talk about all of the interview requests Joseph got right after he was ordained.
Then we went back to the television station, and I think it was Sandy Gilmore. Spent about, it was, I don't remember, I think it was a radio station. We spent a half an hour talking with him in an interview. And then that Tuesday, I got a call from Good Morning America. And David Hartman invited me to go back to New York for an interview. And so it was just a wonderful time. Many things happening like that.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, sign up at patreon.com/gospeltangents, and for $5 a month, you can hear the entire interview without any interruptions. If you'd like to see the whole video, that's just $8 a month, and you can sign up either at youtube.com/gospeltangents or on our website at gospeltangents.com and click the yellow subscribe button. Or you can go to patreon.com/gospeltangents, and I'll just need to make sure that we're Facebook friends, and I'll add you to our insiders group, and you can see the entire interview uncut. If you'd like to get PDF transcripts of our interviews, those are just $10 a month. And for just $15 a month, I will send you paperback versions of our transcripts as soon as they come out. Or, of course, you can buy them on Amazon as well. Go to Amazon.com and do a search for Gospel Tangents Interview, and you can see all of our transcripts there. Don't forget to sign up for our updates at Facebook.com/GospelTangents. Of course, you can follow us at Gospel Tangents on Twitter. To hear our interviews updated to your podcast player, go to tinyurl.com/GospelTangents, and make sure you give us a 5-star review. And of course, you should show your support for Gospel Tangents with one of these cool t-shirts like this green one, or light blue, sport gray, royal blue, purple, of course black, beautiful gold, and of course Utah red. I probably left out some colors, but if you want to see more, go to gospeltangents.com/shop and you can get one of these. So once again, thanks for listening. Click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here we've got some more of our great videos. Thanks again.